Well, hello there, and welcome to my first in a series of congregational hymn playing tips that I'd like to share with you. The footage today that you're going to see in the video is footage from a workshop that I did, a master class where students played hymns for me, and I worked through some principles with them in improving their hymn playing style. The title of the lesson today is Octave Chord or Octave Octave Left Hand. What I'd like to address in this first congregational hymn playing help is a bit of a mindset shift for many church pianists. Many pianists that I've observed have learned a traditional method for accompanying hymns. Let me assure you, there's nothing wrong with this method, but it can tend to get a little bit tired if it is the only method that is used. So, I'd like to introduce you possibly or ask you to consider an alternative way to accompany those hymns that you are presented with on a regular basis. Many hymn players begin with playing the top two notes of the right hand, the soprano and the alto. Then they might do a bit of improvising, which they master quite well. At times, there isn't a lot of growth beyond this place. So I'd like to encourage you to continue to grow in those tips that you've already begun to implement in your hymn playing style. If you're doing the two notes in the right hand with an added octave chord or octave chord in the left hand, that's a great start. So hopefully you've begun to add to your two-note melody a three-note chord. We'll talk about that a bit more in this video. Let's just back up for a moment. And before we get into this lesson, I'd like you to consider briefly, what is the purpose for improvisational hymn playing? Why do we improvise while playing hymns? When I was growing up as a young girl, I remember a church pianist who accompanied hymns for the services. She didn't add a lot, but she was very accurate and she was a very sensitive player. So when the congregation was singing an invitation hymn, she wasn't loud and bombastic. She was soft and sensitive. When the congregation was singing a more triumphant hymn, He lives or Up from the grave he arose, she would play those four parts in such a style. And that to me was excellent. We can learn from people like that. She didn't add, however, she played in a sensitive way that reflected the words. So I'd like you to consider, first of all, what is the purpose of improvisation? Is it not to consider the words that are being sung, that are being emphasized in this song? Is this a prayer? Is it a hymn of praise? Is it a hymn of triumph? Is it a militant marching like hymn? Let's consider the way we play our hymns and why. Well, many of us enjoy the sound that comes from improvisational hymn playing. We get to color the hymns in a certain way, but let's do so in the context of the words that we're playing, because that is the means of worship. We are offering God our worship, and that melody is wedded to that particular hymn. So you might say, I like improvising because it adds color, it adds musicality to my playing. It doesn't sound as dull or dry or boring as just playing four notes from the hymnal. So you want to add more than those four parts that are on the page in the hymnal. Where do you start? Let's start with accuracy. Why would accuracy matter? I am sure there are many reasons. We know God is a God of order. We know that our God, when He accomplishes anything, He does it well. You look at the first days of creation. What did He say every time after He had created? God saw it was good. And then after He created man and woman, it was very good. So, what God does, He always does well. Accuracy matters. It reflects the truth of music and the harmonization that is there. And I want you to consider that for a moment because in a song service, you have a congregation singing along with you. Some are singing harmonies like alto, bass, tenor. Most are singing melody. Now, as the pianist, you actually want to be really careful to reflect those notes that are transcribed on that page in the hymnal. You want to be careful to get the harmonies right. That C sharp diminished chord, that D minor chord, that 5/7 chord, you don't want to miss those. There are some beautiful nuances to music that happen in the harmony. If you don't accurately reflect that, it minimizes some accuracy and excellence in the music itself. I truly believe that as a hymn player, you're allowed to be in a position where accuracy does matter a lot. Let me just explain what I mean. I've tried singing harmony in a service where the pianist did not follow the hymnal harmonies. And let me tell you, it was challenging. I did not know what chord was coming next. And by the way, if you're just playing 1, 4, and 5/7 chords to accompany your melodies, you are missing out on this beautiful harmonic tradition and beautiful harmonic, as I said, nuances to music. A skilled musician has taken the time to put together that hymnal. Now, I have heard some hymnals in which I would disagree with the harmonies that were put in there, but by and large, many hymnals have beautiful harmonies. So you want to follow those harmonies. And let me tell you, that was something that growing up, playing the piano in church from the time I was sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, I was not as careful as I should have been. And I am thankful for a teacher who really called me out on that and said, oh no, that is not acceptable. You've got to be accurate, especially in the house of God. The more you practice, the better you get if you fix it. So it should be something you're growing in, right? We're not saying you have to be perfect or you're not honoring God. I'm not saying anything like that, but you do want to reflect accuracy in your playing. So all the harmonies are important. But what would you say is the most important aspect? Of course, worshiping God from a pure heart. We're talking about the musical elements. Something I emphasize in this workshop is the importance of showcasing the melody. Let me say that again, showcasing the melody. The Bible often refers to melody. It says we should sing and make melody in our hearts to the Lord. Now, that's not in any way to downplay harmony. It's just that the message of that song, the words of that song are best portrayed through the melody. I mean, think about it. What does a soloist go up and sing? He or she goes and sings the melody. What does an instrumentalist play? If he's playing a solo, she's playing the melody. I am very thankful. In many of the churches I've been in, I have noticed many church pianists have an adequate sense of rhythm. And that is so important because in helping to support a singing congregation, the pianist must keep that rhythm moving as the song leader is directing. And again, I really appreciate your willingness just to sit down with me and talk about a possible mindset shift in the way you've approached congregational hymn playing, or perhaps growing in this area. So, thank you for taking the time to do that. We'll go slowly, but there are a few things I'll be saying in this workshop that are foundational to the methodology we're going to employ. So let's say we're really careful to get the notes and the pitches and the chords right as best as we can. We're not stressing about this because we know none of us is perfect. None of us has arrived. We are continuing to work on that, but we're just making it a matter of growth. And if you have read the book, Atomic Habits by James Clear, I would encourage you to do that. He actually mentions music practice and the idea of just getting a little bit better every day. If you can get 1% better every time you practice, there will be a time that you are much more accurate than you are now. So let's keep making those processes of growth not trying to put extra pressure on you. I just want you to think about that as in a growth mindset. So overall, the hymn playing style I'm suggesting is a method in which we use a 3-note chord in our right hand and mainly octaves in our bass. That 3-note chord comes from taking the alto, tenor, and melody note and arranging that into a chord so that the top 3 parts of the chord are represented in the right hand. Of course, the melody is always on top. So if I am playing a chord in the key of F major, my first note is A and I'm on the F chord. Could you spell out what the chord would be in my right hand if my notes are left hand, F and C, right hand, F and A? So if you said the right-hand chord would be CFA, you are absolutely correct. Always keep that melody on the top, and then the F in the left hand would be extended to an octave. So you play an F that's not written, that's improvisational, which most of you are familiar with already. So we're doing 3-note chords continually in the right hand instead of octave chord in the left hand. We're going to do octave, 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 or just octave, and we'll talk about that. But this is what I'm suggesting for our, I call it bare bones style. All right, skeletal style. We're going to add to this so it gets exciting. But if we can peel back the layers and just go down to the basics, if we were going to diagram it like a sentence in English, that's what it would be: a 3-note chord in your right hand that reflects the alto, tenor, and melody. And then in the left hand, that bass note in octaves. So that left hand is just going to follow bass octaves in general. So this is what I'm implementing and encouraging in this particular workshop, and you'll see that as I work with the hymn players. Again, instead of a regular pattern of octave chord or octave chord, the left hand follows a pattern of octave, octave, octave. It may occasionally play chords, but the chords are mainly going to be in the right hand because that's continuously playing the 3 notes or the 4 notes if it's a 5/7 chord, for example. All right, so here we go, octave chord or octave, octave left hand. On number 466, if you want to turn there. And would you mind playing an introduction first? Thank you for doing that. All right, so notice this student does a very nice introduction. She has a strong sense of rhythm, as so many church pianists do. She has a nice style. She is using that traditional octave chord. Did you hear it in the left hand? Octave chord, octave chord. Again, nothing wrong with this. We're just simply trying to introduce a few other methods to get us out of that particular style in everything that we're doing. Just wanted you to notice that that is the style that she's using at this time. So we saw there the student using octave chord mainly, but she did have a series of measures where she did use octaves solely. I want you to listen for how the octave chord plays out, even in the right hand. Again, beautiful sense of rhythm. She really has that down. But we talked before about showcasing the melody. So when I do respond to her, I'm going to bring that out to her. I'm hoping that she considers the melody even more significant than those added notes. So when we're adding an octave chord, what can happen, especially if we bring those chords into the treble clef they can interfere with the dynamic level of our harmony. So this is actually a little bonus here. She's doing a nice job keeping up with the song leader that is imaginary at this point, and we've mentioned that. She's got some nice octaves going on, but I want to mention this, and I do bring it up later, but this particular arpeggio. When you have an arpeggio, they're fun to add, but make sure they again come back to what's my melody, right? I'm going to demonstrate briefly what I'm talking about. Just to demonstrate that, ta, da, da. That's kind of what I heard. So what I'm looking for here is clarity with the melody. Yes, she did end on the melody note, but it was a bit obscured because of the harmony note that she put with it. So we're looking just for that clarity of the melody that can sing forth when it's a single note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 3 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, 5, 6. That's going to keep with that rhythm. The left hand can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's going to keep our emphasis on the 1 and the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to keep that left hand in octaves. Consciously think about doing more 3-note chords?
I think this song in general,
Okay.
I tend to, yeah.
Okay, good. So this is a little tricky because of the time signature. The 6/4, you want to remember that this is duple meter. So you've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a way. So you don't want to make every single beat the same loudness. So think about moving more toward the 1 and the 4, especially with that left hand. It kind of pops out a lot, especially if you do the octave chord. So really, I know I heard some people kind of commenting about the octave chord, which is a really traditional way of accompanying hymns, but actually Rudy Atwood sort of got the ball moving in a different direction with the octaves that he introduced into his hymn playing. It kind of changed the direction of hymn playing. And so that is still a very popular style, but he sort of expanded it. And I think, I don't know if you've ever heard anything by Rudy Atwood, but he used octaves a lot in his playing. But he has some beautiful old music if you ever listen to Rudy Atwood. You can hear him on YouTube or whatever. So I'd like you to try to avoid too much of the octave chord here. See if you can try playing octaves, and then we'll add something else, okay? And then think about 1 and 4 as being the main notes to go to, and let's just do the first phrase. What do I do? Okay, good. Now bring that melody out, because that's still where everything goes. It goes back to the melody, and then that was fine. In the left hand, if you don't know what to do, just go down an octave for now. Okay? Yeah, so try just going down with that bass note. So if it's an F octave, then go to the F octave below that, or the C octave above or below that. Okay? out a little bit more. See if you can do that. Okay, working on that. But that was good because I noticed as soon as I said you can bring the melody out more, she lifted her wrist. So you have more of that dropping in, okay? And that's good. You did that well. Let's see if you can minimize that second beat a little bit more and that third beat a little bit more, okay? In the left hand. Okay, so let's do that one more time. And I'd like you to have a really strong arpeggio there, okay? You were kind of like, it was like kind of like an afterthought. Can you make it a strong one? So it's strong, but it's not the melody, right?
Right.
Okay.
So you want me to weaken it more?
That's the melody. So if you land on that note, fine. But everything else should be a little underneath that. Okay, try that again. Just the right hand. Just that. Just the arpeggio. What do you want for your rhythm here? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 5, 6, right? So think about that as you play it. Now, emphasis. 1, 2, 3. It's not. It's 6, 4. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Think about that. Feel that. Single notes, just maybe stick with that.
Stick with it.
Yeah, I liked that, but we did a good job bringing that 1 and 4 out. So when you work on that, make sure you get that third note added, okay? But that's going to help support that melody too. All right, let's try that from here again. Good. See if you can just do octaves in the left hand. So notice how we gave ourselves a couple single notes there? Okay.
I'm looking at you now.
Good. One more time.
I'm retraining my brain. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You've done it so many times. All right, but that's good. You're getting that feeling better. Sometimes you were adding in something with the right hand. I just want you to keep going because I want to hear that. So don't analyze anything. Just play. Strong. If you have something you want to add underneath it, fine. That sounds quite. And then don't forget the 5/7 at the end. But just don't interfere with where that melody is. Okay?
So I can have friendly stuff and not change the melody.
Right. In general, it really depends if you're playing with a lot of people that are playing the melody. Sometimes you might be able to, if there's a sixth part or something, that's kind of a little bit,
Oh.
yeah. But right now, I would just stick with, focusing on where that melody is.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. So in this video, we've considered shifting our thinking a bit as we play for congregational hymn playing. We've challenged you to move from the mainly octave chord or octave chord in the left hand to using in the bass clef mainly octaves and in the right hand 3-note chords. Now, just to clarify, we're not talking about eliminating the octave chord or octave chord completely, but we're encouraging you to grow beyond that improvisational method to foster the kind of method that supports a clear bass line and also really reflects the harmonies of the song and also a sensitive way of playing. We discussed the importance of showcasing the melody as we play and of allowing our harmonies to complement the melody instead of overshadowing the melody. We related that many hymn players have an adequate sense of rhythm, and I encouraged hymn players to consider the melody as they bring out the main beats of a hymn. In the example we used in this lesson, 6/4 time, we said, is considered duple meter. It has 2 macro beats, the 1 and the 4, so we will support the melody, especially on those 2 beats. We likewise related the importance of being accurate in our hymn playing to reflect the style of the hymn and the actual harmonies on the page. Thanks again so much for taking the time to watch this first video. May God bless your efforts as you continue to improve in hymn playing.